Hey guys, welcome back to another Stable Diffusion video. Today I want to continue sort of what we were talking about yesterday with ControlNet, but I really wanted to just focus in on the Canny model. So I'm going to try and provide some examples of the different settings and what they look like, what kind of Canny maps those create, and sort of demo how that affects your images whenever you're generating using Canny. I originally was going to try and cram all of the models and preprocessors into one video, but as I got recording, I realized that that's actually going to make an insanely long video. I can still try and combine those for you guys if you would like to have them all in one resource, but maybe I can put these just in a playlist where people can go through and check them out. So anyways, if you guys dig this video, be sure to give it a like and also consider subscribing. I'm going to be trying to put together a lot of Stable Diffusion tutorials on just the various different things I've learned in my own workflows with Stable Diffusion. So I would definitely appreciate it if you could do that. But all right, let's get into it without any further ado, and let's take a look at the Canny model in ControlNet. So I've gone ahead and I've already got Automatic1111 pulled up. I've got Stable Diffusion running. We have our prompt from yesterday's video put in there, and we're going to try and, we're going to work on changing this image of a woman in a grassy field to one of a woman sitting on the beach, and we're going to use the Canny model. So when you load up ControlNet, get it all enabled, I've gone ahead and selected Pixel Perfect, and I do have Allow Preview selected as well. But what we'll do is we're just going to run through and I'm going to show you guys the differences. So right now we have the default settings in. And let's just go ahead and run this and we'll see what kind of map it gives us and what kind of images we get from that map with the default settings. So we'll go ahead and we'll let this run. And there we go. We have our picture of our woman. She's now sitting on the beach, or we have a woman sitting on the beach. It's not the same woman, but she's wearing a very similar tank top. And then here is the default Canny map that is created. You can see it's got a, it detects pretty well all of the important edges, picks up the flowers in her hand, some of those plants that are standing in the background, and then we have the general outline of her body. So the default settings are pretty good, but there's a couple of other things you can do, a couple other configurations you can check out, and you obviously have a ton of control on where you want these thresholds to be. But I just kind of want to showcase the extremes to give you guys an idea of sort of the different limits that you're playing between here. So what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to do a slight variation of the default settings. And I'm going to raise this I'm going to lower the low threshold all the way to the bottom and go ahead and max out the high threshold to 255. And we'll run a generation and I can show you guys that image. And we'll see what we can get. So here we go. Here's our image that was generated with the low threshold bottomed out and the high threshold set to max. And you can see once again we're getting a pretty good image. There's a little bit of something weird going on there in that one. But that's 4 generations there. And then here is our Canny map. So this one is very similar to the default. It's not just a ton different, but you do get a little bit more edge detection, and it's still pretty clean as far as like getting the pose of how she's sitting, her clothing, her face, her hair, and the plants. But it's comparing everything a little bit differently than if you come down here and you move to the next variation that I'm going to show you guys, where you set you keep the low threshold low, and then set the high threshold. I don't know, we'll set it somewhere about 15. Because I do like to keep these staggered just a little bit. And I'll show you guys this. This really does give you pretty much every single edge, as you'll see here in a second. So here's our completed image. You can see that it's quite a bit different. We are still on the beach. It's put sand in here, but it's kept a lot of the plants and added almost a lot of, it's almost got like a film grain look to it. Right here you can actually clearly see artifacting in this one from the map that I'll show you guys in a second. She's on the beach though. I mean, it gives sort of a different feel. So this is something you have to play with to kind of get the aesthetic that you're looking for. But here's the map that's generated by setting the thresholds that way, both of them very low. I mean, you detect like every single little edge and change in the pixels in the image. You can still see it's probably sort of difficult to see, but you can still see the plant, her tank top, her arm and all that, but you just have all of these various edges in there that almost make the image sort of noisy. And that generates images like we have here. So this one is actually really a pretty cool image. This one would be okay. A lot of these other ones have got sort of some artifacting, but that's sort of what happens if you play with these thresholds down on the low end. So now let's go ahead and move them up to the high end. We'll set both pretty high. I'll max out the high threshold again, and we'll set the low threshold about 10 below, again, just to kind of keep them staggered. And then let's run this and see what we can get. Okay, so here is our Canny map for having both thresholds set very high. You can see it's actually the complete opposite, which you would expect setting them opposite on the sliders. And we have much less definition of the original image. We still have the flower she was holding, still have a vague outline of her body, face, and hair, which is great. So that's keeping your character in the same place, but it's sort of giving it a lot more free reign on the background and around her. This plant to the top right is much less defined, as with these down here, and she herself is much less defined. So you're just sort of giving Stable Diffusion a little bit more of a playground to work with just a vague idea of what the original image is. And it still does a very good job. If we take a look at our images here, we still have a girl in a tank top. She's sitting on the beach, and it does a pretty good job. So all of, you could cherry pick different images out of all of those different variations I just showed you guys and sort of find one that matches the aesthetic you're going for the best. So I think what I'll do now is I'll go ahead and I'll create a graphic that I'll put up on the screen right now. And that can sort of show you guys a comparison all on one screen here of what the different maps are and the sort of images they create. So have a play with the Canny model. This one is a really powerful model that a lot of people use when they're trying to use ControlNet, especially in text to image or image to image. It's just one of those really good, like, general use preprocessors and models within ControlNet. I use Canny a lot, and I like to stack Canny with depth models a lot. And we'll make another video on depth models. I'll do the same thing, and we'll run through some of the different settings on the depth models as well. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I look forward to creating a couple more for you guys. Let me know which models and preprocessors you would like me to check out next, and I will see you guys on the next video. Have fun diffusing.